Hello, everyone, and welcome to your very first episode of Decline Invite, the only invite worth accepting. I'm your host, the extroverted IT leader, Ryan Drumheller, and I'm very excited to welcome the first guest to the podcast, Tim Devlin and Lawrence Dunn. Welcome, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us.
So, why are we here and why are we recording this today? So, the very first topic that we're going over is what we're calling the founder circle and why we hit decline and why we built a company called Trisentra. So, let's go right into it and go, gents, why are we actually here? Why are we talking about Trisentra today? And what do people need to know? Let's go right over to Tim and let's talk to him for a second here on a little bit on his background and why we're all sitting here.
I have got a long, extensive history basically in the corporate world. Enjoyed that a lot, still do, but that's kind of like given me a lot of skills over the years that I've acquired. And I figured, it'd be great to be able to give that back. And so you had hit me up and said that you were interested in doing something similar to that. And so I'm like, yeah, let's absolutely go ahead and do that. That way we could get everybody on the same page. I went ahead and told Larry about it, told you about Larry because you guys hadn't met yet, flew you guys down here to San Antonio so that you could meet. And from there, everything kind of just rolled out beautifully. I mean, from day one, essentially, you guys clicked and then we started going nuts and just thinking of different things that we were going to do, how we could help people, how we could mentor, coach, teach, you name it. The ideas were flowing. And then, of course, doing all the whole sort of business thing. I've got a pretty extensive background. So I started out really basically running one of Michigan's first internet service providers back in the late, it's called Sojourn Systems, with my business partner at that time. And we actually were pretty successful at doing that. There weren't a lot of ISPs at the time. And so it was a good opportunity to get into that. I always had a strong interest in technology, and I had been fooling around with CompuServe and games online with that and whatnot as a 20-year-old would do. And it was a lot of fun, learned a tremendous amount. We grew that to about 40,000 customers, if I remember right. And then we took a look at the future essentially by just paying attention and realized that pretty soon the telcos and the cable companies were going to get into this. And we're like, ooh, they've got billions and we do not have billions. And so if we don't want to just get swallowed up or slowly drain our customer base away when they go to these guys, maybe we should get while the getting's good. So we sold that off. We sold that off for a pretty decent amount. And we used that to basically end doing the whole ISP thing. A few weeks after that happened, my father-in-law called me up and he said, hey, this guy that I used to work with at General Motors, he just got hired in by this Canadian company called Maynard's, and they don't have any idea what they're doing tech-wise, IT-wise at all. Would you be able to go in there and maybe, take a few weeks and help them out and get them settled out and going? I'm like, sure, since I'm not doing anything right now. So I went there, met those guys. And to make a really long story short, over 3.5 years, I went from just helping them out in their local Lansing, Michigan office to becoming the director of IT in their Vancouver, BC head office. But unfortunately, I still lived in Michigan and flew back and forth to Vancouver quite a bit. So that was something my wife wasn't too thrilled about. So she basically gave me an ultimatum and said, either stop doing that or you're going to have to go find somebody else to live with. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll stop doing that then. But it was a lot of fun, learned a lot. It was an industrial auction company. They're still around, still doing great. You can do online auctioning with them. I introduced that to them. I created MGATS, Maynard's Global Asset Tracking System. That was my brainchild and thing I was probably most proud about there, where General Motors and then other tier one suppliers and other companies as well could track their assets in real time. And mind you, this was back in 1998 when I started doing that with them. And they were off floor. They were blown away. They were like, oh, goodness. I set up a wide area network, which is kind of like an archaic nomenclature now because that's kind of went the way of the dodo bird. But at the time, it was pretty good. We set up one of the first voice over IP systems. I knew some people at Lucid that I'd worked with, which was AT&T's spinoff, another one of their spinoffs basically, and learned how to do all that sort of stuff. But anyway, long story short there, learned a lot, had a lot of fun, very challenging, but I was one of the few people at the time that could actually pull off some of that stuff because all this stuff was still brand new. So I was always right there on the cutting edge of technology, and I've been that way pretty much my whole career. So anyway, after 3.5 years, I had the ultimatum. I stopped doing that, tried to retire, found out that I'm terrible at retiring. The wife and I, took the money that we had and went all over the world, learned a lot of different cultures and was exposed to that and had a lot of fun. But eventually that comes to an end. You can only go so many places so many times and see so much, and then you pretty much have done all that. So that was a few years later. And then I was hit up by a friend of mine who said, "So you said you want to go back to work?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, I'm working at this company called Corcom." I'm like, "Oh, that's one of the companies that, or their parent company of the company that I'd sold my ISP to, Voyager.net." Another back in Lansing, it was another ISP at the time. That's one of the companies that we sold Sojourn off to. And so I went there and I was there for 5 years and I just didn't want to do the whole corporate thing there. So I was just a supervisor, but I helped really bring them more into a professional sort of management style. But also the thing I've always tried to do is have a lot of fun in that as well, because all work and no play makes for a dull situation, as we all know, and it can make for a very not so fun situation in general. So basically did that for 5 years and they were bought by another ISP out of Ohio. And so that ended, tried to retire again, failed at it again. A guy that I worked with at Corcom, he reached out to me and said, "Hey, we could really use an adult in the room at Liquid Web," which is where he had went. And so I'm like, sure, I'll go over there and help. And I've been there ever since. Now we're talking almost 15 years. January 31st, it'll be 15 years that I've been there. Love it. I'm the director of customer support there, CX support as they like to call it. And once again, over those many years, learned a tremendous amount and really helped transform the entire support experience. That's where I met you. I'd only been there a short amount of time, and you'd already been there a couple of years, if I remember right. And you were just kind of like sitting over there in the corner. I'm like, "Hey, you should go try to do something else." And so we kind of like hit it
Ruined it
off.
for me.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of hit it off, and that kind of got you going. And then you ended up leaving to go pursue other interests and challenges. And then Larry got hired on. That's how I ended up meeting him. I was both of your supervisors basically at the time. And then Larry was kind of like your replacement, so to speak, because after you were kind of like my right hand guy, now he's my right hand guy. And so that's been what, 10, 11 years, I think now, Larry, that you joined
11
there.
and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what I've been doing ever since. And so what we've all wanted to do really is take this to the next level and really give back to the community. And we feel we can really do that at Trisentra by bringing all of that experience that I've got, all of that energy that all of us have. We've talked to several other people that we've known at other organizations along the way. They've all dived into this as well. And so I think we're up to like 12 people now doing this. And so far, so good. It's a lot of fun. And I think we're going to have continuous fun over the next few years and help a lot of people out. And really help them grow their careers, no matter what it is or whatever their challenges that they're meeting. I know a lot of executives are really freaking out over a certain AI situation that's going down too. Everybody's scrambling, trying to figure out, how do I fit into this AI thing? What do I do? So that's one of the things that we are definitely going about. But I've talked long enough. So how about you, Larry?
Yeah. Unlike Tim, I did not get started in IT. IT was more of a hobby at the time. I actually had more of an interest in healthcare. When I first started out, I had intended to go into the nursing program. And while I was doing that, I obtained my PCT licensing in Michigan, which is a patient care technician. I worked as a patient care technician for about a 6-month stint. It wasn't for me. I kind of wanted that focus on helping people and just patient care, exactly that. And there wasn't a lot of that going on at that particular time in that position. So I went into private healthcare, which was a lot more, I guess, free. It felt like I had the freedom to do what I wanted to do and provide my own level of healthcare. I did that for about a year and a half to 2 years. And then I found out about Liquid Web. So I turned my hobby into a career, which was unexpected. I never really intended to do that. I should have thought about it, but I never really connected the dots that that's something that I would enjoy doing. I started out as a technician. I worked under Tim, I think for about 2 years, and then I became a supervisor. And from there, just kind of worked my way up. Now I'm a manager of our implementations teams. I still really feel strongly about being involved in the development of people and the care for people. So the combination of the two is kind of the idea here. And being able to speak to my experience with helping people and being people focused and development focused is exactly what I want to be able to do at Trisentra. In fact, I'm heading up the L&D department, the learning and development department. We're creating training modules, leadership training that Tim and I are developing. And I get to kind of play around in both areas, which is something that I've always wanted to do. So it's pretty exciting.
This is going to be an interesting episode, as I'm also going to play the role of question and answer as well as host. So my background, I've been in IT about my 20th year now. I went through an ISP company, ended up at Liquid Web, which is where I met Tim. In my history, didn't know Lawrence at the time there. By the time I left there, I think is kind of where your story, Lawrence, came into play about a year or two, maybe after that. I went off to an insurance company, learned that industry, kind of had a conversation with myself while I was there. I was just doing some back-end modeling, essentially, in a system called Remedy, doing a lot of asset tracking, inputting, architecting, and I sat there kind of in a way that you were describing of, I think I want to do more than just sit here and touch things all day. So that's where my education journey kind of kicked in, where I said, I'm going to go get my bachelor's. And I didn't have that at the time, which then took me to a company that was a vendor in Lotto. A totally different experience for me. Joint venture. Got to see what that world was like from a decision making prospect. But that's where I started to ascend there into leadership programs. I ended up being the IT manager, senior IT manager before I left. From that point, I added on, I don't know, maybe 100 or so certifications by the time I left. Ended up at a company that does software development out of the UK. That company put me in a position where I oversaw all of the IT for essentially what was North America at the time. I ended up getting 2 additional master's degrees and about 70 more certifications at this point. So I'm a big believer in education, big believer in learning, always trying to learn, stay ahead of the curve. That's a very quick rundown and backstory, but very big believer in education, leadership. And yeah, I've been in multiple industries and always wanted to do something that we could call our own and make it our own thing. And hopefully we can bring value to everybody else's business, which we haven't touched on yet. The company is called Trisentra. It's a IT consulting company that also does training, leadership programs, and more. We have a lot of good individuals who are working with us along the way, really smart people in addition to just us. I mean, we bring a lot of experience in terms of leadership, business degrees. In Tim's case, his history is longer than we are old. So in that regard, we bring a lot to the table, but we also bring a lot of smart people that have done a lot of awesome projects along the way and are very smart in their areas of expertise as well. So just kind of kicking it back over, what's the moment that made each of you say, you know what, this is the time, this is the idea that I want to go ahead and put my time and effort into. Here we go, we're going to do this. So we'll kick it back over to Tim.
Well, I'd say a conversation that I had with you shortly after you left Iris prompted this latest go round, which was, hey, I don't want to work with the corporate situation much longer or any longer. What do you think about getting into some sort of consulting and helping people grow in their careers? And I'm like, I would absolutely love to do that. I think it's a great opportunity. It's something that you had the time to do. It's something that my position allows me the time to do, at least on a part-time basis for right now. And then I also introduced you to Larry at that time because you had started out, I am sort of like the tie between the three of us. You started out sort of as my protege and right-hand man at Liquid Web. And then after you left, Larry kind of filled into that role. And then I had an even longer, relationship with him at that company. And then he went on to develop several leaders as well. And a lot of those leaders that both he and I developed at Liquid Web have joined us here in Trisentra. To go back into what you were saying earlier, there are 11 or 12 of us, about a dozen of us right now, from different companies that we've all three of us worked with over the years. And they've all put their trust and faith in us to do this thing. They all have a similar mindset. They want to help each other and others in general grow and learn and lead. And they are very wicked smart, highly talented people. And they all believe in the same thing that we all do. Trisentra really is founded around wanting to give back, to really teach people, and hopefully have them avoid some of the mistakes that we've made along the way in our various careers, but also just to try to elevate them and get them to that next level so they can, flourish in whatever it is that they want to do. We do have quite a bit of background. Ryan certainly has enough certifications for all of us and 50 other people on top of that, because he's really went full steam in that. And that's great to see. And it's something that brings a lot of diversity to the table. And then we'll talk about later on, maybe not in this podcast, but I'm sure others, a little bit more of the backgrounds of the people that have also joined us in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Larry?
Yeah, I think for me, my passion for developing people that grew throughout my time at Liquid Web got stronger. And what better way to do that than to, be part of a consultancy and be part of a training program and be able to build out those training packets and actually help people and be there, I guess, as a guide in that consultancy for leadership. So when you guys invited me to San Antonio for a week to talk about this, it was exciting news, and it was a welcome invite because it sounds exactly like something I'd want to do.
So you didn't decline
part of. What's that?
You didn't decline that invite.
I did not decline that invite. No, I accepted that invite. Actually, I did decline that invite at first for the first few days. Remember, you tried to get me there a week early.
Yeah, real life things got in the way.
Yeah. Ryan took that invite. That's right.
I went to that invite. We'll get into that in a second. But
no, but I think doing this and being able to not only develop new people and offer ways for them to develop, but I get to continue that journey with people that I developed that have come here. Kind of my right and left hand guys that I worked with at Liquid Web are now here. So it's exciting to see them go on and do other things. And I'm excited to continue to work with them and continue to grow them and see them grow people. Those are both really great. Everybody that we've brought on is really great. I think we have a lot to offer, and it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess probably did this in reverse, but the way that it kind of came together was a one-off random conversation where Tim was in town, and I believe we were out with a couple individuals who have now joined us from different areas. But they were asking us a lot of leadership type questions at the table, and we were answering them for 30, 60 minutes, something like that. And it was just a joke of oh, maybe we should just do our own company and then, help teach leadership. And that's kind of how it initially started, but not for a minute. It probably was a month or two after that before I was on kind of a off the grid vacation in the east side of the state of Michigan. And I started kind of thinking about it while I was there, and then kind of on the way home on my phone with myself in Chat GPT and other just links, I started to just research, and every single piece of information that I was pulling just said yes. So I built a business plan and sent it over to Tim initially. And then little did I know that whole time that I was doing that was about a week before I officially got the call on a Monday on a one-on-one where essentially I was let go in a company-wide mass let go. They're still letting off individuals, as I see on LinkedIn every day. It's the same thing that we see going on in the IT industry. So I kind of was ahead of the game on the idea, but maybe not ahead of the game of when I would have initially executed it. But it gave us the time for me to attack this aggressively. As Tim messages me back 20 minutes after I get let go and say, yeah, it's a great idea. And 20 minutes previous to that, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I had a job. So now I'm sitting here going whirlwind in my mind. Before I know it, I'm on the plane, like you had mentioned earlier, going to San Antonio for 2 weeks to start the planning. You arrive a week later. A couple days after that, we brought a couple other fellows down, and before we know it, we had just all kinds of whiteboards and documents and ideas for lines of business and what we were good at. And we'll touch on some of that as we go along. But from about June 2nd, June 1st to now is when we aggressively attacked this and turned it into what it is now. So just going into it, some of our early roles and responsibilities, I'll just go back to that time period to what we just talked about to where we're at now, give you guys a chance to talk about what you've been doing and coming forward. And let's tell the people how far we've come.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously we needed, if we were going to do this, we needed to do it right. And so I liquidated some assets that I happen to have from some other business ventures and funded our initial startup and started the ball rolling as far as getting an EIN number and getting the business rolling with bank accounts and all the other things that you need to do when you're starting up a new business, which is a long, exhaustive list. And we are doing business both in the state of Texas, the state of Michigan, soon to be branching out into Arizona and a few other locations as well. And our end goal really is to be global. We want to be a global company that can help people anywhere. And so that was the initial kickoff. Basically was just, okay, let's actually start putting our heads to the grindstone or nose to the grindstone and getting it done and getting it started. And so that's what we've kind of been doing ever since. And we are now 2 weeks away from officially launching at the time of this podcast. So we're really getting excited. The hype is really building. The excitement level is really building. All the hard work that we've been doing for the last couple of months is coming together. We're about ready to see the end result of that. And I'm super stoked.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's been what feels like a long time in a short time, but very rapidly we've put this together. Larry, your perspective of your journey in the last couple of months.
Yeah, just show up. I'm just here. No, I mean, that's partially true. Showing up to San Antonio and kind of brainstorming with you guys and getting a lot of our plan of action together and how we were going to tackle things, who we were going to bring on to do the things that we want to do. I took on the training portion of what we're going to do, which we plan to launch in October. That's been really fun, and I hope it continues to be fun. And I think that we have a lot more development to do internally, and we're doing it every day. We always have new ideas. Ryan's always got new ideas. We hear about them whether we want to or not at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., whenever. But that's really great because it puts us in a position to, I think, grow at a healthy rate. And I think we're doing that.
Yeah, I would. It's like what I tell everybody is don't be me because I'm insane and crazy. But at the same time, that's exactly why I think that we can provide value to any client that has an issue that they're bringing us, which is exactly the reason why I put in all the hours of crazy, because when I've been in these other rooms of companies that have employed me, it's not been to the full potential or the full 100% that it could be, right? It's always kind of well, go here, but that only here. Don't go there. Or we like that idea, but we're not gonna do it today. We're gonna fund it right now, whatever the case might have been. It's more in this realm. The customer has a problem and they're looking to us to help bring a solution, whatever that issue might be. So when we were sitting there in that 2-week window and after that, it's really been about, okay, collectively in Trisentra right now, what do we have for skills? What can we offer? What can we do? Which are many late night conversations. I'd hate for my chat GPT and more info to come out, because I'm talking to it constantly about, what are challenges out there. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm looking at everybody that's posting constantly. I think at this time I have roughly 12,000 people in my network. Some individuals I've never actually had a conversation with in person, but some of my best conversations have actually been with people that I've actually never physically met yet, who either gave me advice or are giving me now a challenging situation, or just offering their support in different ways. And Probably the one thing that I didn't know at the time was picking my transition plan, because I didn't necessarily see the market as quickly as it went, which is now unfortunately too many, green banners that I'm seeing on LinkedIn and whatnot. But I will say the one thing it is doing for society is it's making all of those individuals, including myself at the time, communicate a lot more. All of these people are talking, they're sharing things from their industries, and I'm understanding just what kind of problems actually exist out there. What can we do to actually come in and fulfill those solutions to those problems? When those people get back on their feet, hopefully they remember the conversations that we've had as well, and can see this and more from us to say, hey, that guy was excellent. He was nice. He tried to solve something for me without any expectations at the time, because we were all unemployed at that point. No longer unemployed, right? We're doing this. We're running full steam ahead. We're going to bring all of our solutions, all of our ideas, all of our leadership, all of the skill sets that we have to the table. The one thing that we're going to be is absolutely, completely honest and transparent when we sit down with the customer and say, we can either do that, or, you know what, I don't think that we're the best one for this, because we want to make sure it gets done right the first time. And we're not sure that we might be able to actually do that particular thing for you. But I tell you what, either this vendor or that vendor or somebody else. And that's just the right thing to do for the client at the end of the day, that a lot of people in this realm, they don't do that. Rather be upfront. And I've always been that way in the industry. Um, no, that was a long spiel, but I wanted to make sure people also heard that this is the style of company. This is why we went down this direction, and we absolutely bring all kinds of expertise. I know it's a joke that I have all of these certifications, but it's not just that. It's also the mentorship that we bring to the individuals that work with us, or the people that are going to hire us. I would love to actually give any piece of advice, as long as the company's all right with that, to say, here's what I would do, here's the journey I went on, here's whatever questions that they might have in particular about how to get better in a particular topic, or how to get that particular leadership trait or skill. We're going to offer all of that, and we're pretty dang good at it, to be honest, to have this many people this quick to line up to want to be with us again. And we hope that we can bring that to your guys' businesses for the individuals who are listening. So transitioning to a new topic, how did we come up with the name Trisentra? Why did we go with the name Trisentra? I know my opinion. Tim, what's yours?
Well, I think we said, hey, we need to come up with a name. And so we just brainstormed around for a while. I think you were the one, Ryan, who actually came up with the name Trisentra, because you put it into some AI generator, I think. And you said, hey, 3 founders, what can you give me? And that's one of the ones that came up with. And we all decided, nah, it doesn't sound bad. Kind of gets to the point. And so I think that's really how we went with it. To your earlier point, though, I think you're absolutely right. It's really about helping people more than anything. And honestly, being honest in how we do it, being approachable, being real with people. I think so many companies and organizations right now just give you a lot of BS, to be honest. And we're trying to be different. We're trying not to do that. We're trying to actually say, hey, here's how we did it. Worked for us. It may or may not work for you, but we're going to be honest with you and give you our opinion and let you know this is what we think you should do. And here's why. Here's the data that backs it up. Here are the facts that back it up. Here are examples of when we've done this before with others and their successes and the challenges that they've had. But as Ryan said, I too have a decent LinkedIn following, and I've noticed just one green banner after the next lately of people being let go and downsized, all the big FANG companies that have laid people off en masse. And people are struggling right now, and we really think that we can help, not necessarily with everything that they got going on in their lives, but at least in their careers. We can probably lend a little bit of experience and leadership and guidance on how they can take their career to the next level and get themselves hired. And so that's one of the things that we really believe passionately around. It's what we really want to do. And so I think more than anything, that's where we will shine in this, because we got a lot of passion for it. We got a lot of great people that are helping us out all the time, as we stated earlier. And I, for one, can't wait to get going. I think it's going to be awesome. Gotta be amazing.
100%. Lawrence, your final takes on that particular topic?
I mean, as to how we came up with the name Trisentra, Tim pretty much answered that question. I actually really like the name. I don't know why. It just flows really well. It makes sense. I think it's a great name. If you were to ask me if there was meaning behind it, I would tell you I don't know. I don't think so.
There's that
But
honesty.
yeah, but I think it works, and I've kind of grown to associate it with all the work that we've done and all the work that we plan to do. So it actually has meaning now. Yeah, I think that our plan to help people do the right thing and be transparent sounds great to me. My wife tells me stories from her past experiences with different leadership, and yeah, it's not great. And there are a lot of moments where I'm like, wow, that's a terrible way to have done that, or why did they make that decision? And I feel like we have a lot to offer in even those positions and be able to maybe help people be better, more effective leaders. And it stems beyond leadership. That's our plan, is to do it all, help wherever we can.
Be good people. And I think the other thing too that we do, all of us, is we don't do it in the traditional way. I think all of us have heard, we've all had that terrible boss or that terrible person. At any company you work at, you always run into somebody where you're just like, wow, really? How did you come to that conclusion? But we've always been, at least speaking for myself, I know I've always tried to, the whole cliche, think outside the box. But it's true. You have to think sometimes of different ways of approaching things, of trying different attitudes, just coming at it from a new way of thinking, and not just the tried and true stuff that ends up getting you so far, but then you just dead end sometimes because you've only been taught this one specific way of doing things. And we've always tried to look at different ways and different approaches. And oddly enough, some of the things that I tried literally decades ago and was told, oh, you can't do that, is now the way everybody's going. Everybody's caught on, and now they're all headed in that same way. And that's around having, I don't know, compassion and actually giving a damn, for lack of a better term, about the people that we work with, and actually caring and saying, hey, you can come to me. It really is an open door policy, but there's no door, and then now, of course, that we're all living in this remote world, or at least most of us are, or a good portion of us are anyway. It has even more meaning because I think connecting with people is really challenging. And I think that kind of leads us into the whole 800-pound gorilla in the room that everybody's dealing with and struggling with, which is AI. AI is a game changer. It's something that I've seen coming for a long, long time. And it's finally here. At least the earlier stages of it are here. And it is having a major impact on every company out there, and doing AI and working with AI for a really long time. Maybe because, we have been in the industry for a really long time, especially around tech. So we've had time to adjust, get used to it, and really play with it and really understand it. And that's one of the things that we really want to bring to our clients and customers.
Yeah, I mean, every tool that we picked so far that we have in our tool suite is AI focused or related. So by design, really. So every single thing that we have done has some kind of influence in that degree. And it's interesting seeing or hearing from a lot of people who might know about Tricentra at this point, or might know what we're doing, and just hearing about how their company has AI, or the way they're going about it, or the fact that they're scared about security, or
Is this going to take
you
my
know,
job?
exactly. Yeah. And in some cases, yeah, 100%. That is exactly what we're seeing out there. And as scary as that might sound, it's a reality, unfortunately, because there are a lot of ways that we can automate things now where we don't need somebody, sitting there pushing buttons, looking at this blank document over and over again. And, a business is going to choose to be an efficient route for that. And hopefully that's where the other part of at least our company model comes into play, where it's not just we're going to come in and automate jobs and you get rid of them, and a company may want to choose some proficiency games, but we also have our training wing. We also have upskilling that's coming, where we actually teach IT skills or some business terminology, etc. Sit down, have a conversation for those clients that come to us that want that. So we have it both ends of the spectrum, right? AI effectively can be used as a major win really in your company. It can get you all kinds of results, but at the same time, you can also still invest in those employees and get proficiency gains there and get them more productive and producing better results in those jobs that aren't quite AI as focused as well. It's a good point on AI. It's definitely heavily integrated in our tool suite. Here's a great question on the topic of AI or anything else that we're talking about, maybe bringing into the company or rolling out to our clients and doing. How do we, as founders and decision makers in this company, how do we handle disputes or disagreements when we have something that maybe we're not all 100% sure of at the time, or maybe we don't have enough data in? How has it been like for at least each of your guys' opinions? So we'll go Lawrence this time first.
We haven't had a whole ton of disagreements. I think we're pretty aligned. I think we're really good at, I guess, articulating our points to each other. We know our individual proclivities, so we're able to communicate that effectively. So we all understand and don't really think and no one's really brought anything to the table where someone else was like, no, that's wrong. I don't think that's right. I think that we're able to bring new ideas and have those discussions in a way that's transparent and that everyone's like, well, let's talk about it, and then we do talk about it, and we've all settled on a good way to proceed with those changes. Yeah, I don't think that we've had anything major where any of us have just been, opposed to doing or discussing what someone else brought to the table.
Well, I think one of the key things too is we're really good communicators. We can communicate very effectively. It's one of our strengths that all of us have. And I think that helps avoid a lot of those situations because we know how to listen. That's the most important thing. Even if you're having a disagreement with somebody or a difference of opinion, listen to what it is that they say. And that equips you to be able to see things from their point of view and allow you to meet in the middle. And I think all of us are really good at doing that.
My take is, you guys just bug me about actually going to bed and not messaging at 2, 3, 4, or 5 a.m. So outside of that, yeah, the ideas are at least listened through. I've learned, over time to try to slow down in terms of absorbing the rebuttal, the information back, and then also figuring out that a lot of these things need to have some sort of research or data, attached to it, and why we might want to look at something or at least do our due diligence. Yeah, no real disagreements here, which is fantastic. There's definitely still challenging, right? Like we still challenge, like, well, why? Like, show me, that information, which I think is important. But yeah, no, I think everybody so far that has seen our styles has taken to that as well. I think there's a reason why there's this many people this early, and nothing bad to say, at least in terms of how we're interacting. I really like this upcoming question. I think it's important for people to hear how we think when we look at employees and what we value and stuff. But if you could only hire for one quality, what would it be and why? Tim, let's go with you.
One
What do you
quality?
value the most?
Sure.
I'll tell you what, you give me your best interpretation of what you want.
I would say it's going to have to be more than one because I don't just look for one quality in somebody that I want to hire or work with. I want to see their passion. I suppose that more than anything. If you're passionate about what you do, you're going to be successful at it. That's one thing I've definitely learned over the years. So if I have to narrow it down to one, it's going to be that. It's going to be passion for what you do. If you believe in yourself, you believe in what it is that you're doing, you're going to be successful. It just happens. And because you've got that foundation and that fundamental attitude. So passion for the job, passion for the role.
Makes absolute sense. Lawrence, what is your take?
That's a good one. So I will pick another. I would say transparency is really important. I don't like when people bullshit, and it's usually pretty evident, and I can see it when people are bullshitting. So I like people that are transparent and tell me like it is. That is part
Authentic.
of why the three of us, authenticity is, yeah, that's a better way of putting it. The three of us are really good at that, and I think that's why we communicate so well. None of us really just try to peddle and work around words to confuse each other, and we don't bullshit each other. I think we're all pretty honest, and it works out.
Honest,
Yeah.
that was what I was going to go with the passion was also people who don't BS around, people who are serious, people who are genuine, they're upfront, or they're an open book. That's what we try to do all the time, and I think that's why we've had so many people so willing to get on board so early in this venture. I mean, we weren't even a month in when we started talking to other people, and literally every single person that we've approached and said, "Hey, we're doing this, would you be interested? It's a brand new startup, we're not really going to pay you anything right now." And they're like, "Absolutely, 100%, count me in." And I think that's the best testament that we can get for ourselves, is to have so many people. Like I said, there's about a dozen of us already doing this, and these people are putting their work and their effort in for the fact that they are betting on the future. They're betting on us as leaders, and they really believe in what it is that we're doing. They believe in what we're trying to create, and they want to be a part of that. And I think, again, honestly, that more than anything speaks as to the nature of the three of us, and what it is that we're doing, because we have so many people who have signed on board and says, "Count me in. I want to do this too."
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I think that goes right into why we're different. Well, we're different because that's how we've used those skills. We are those skills. Like, we've been authentic. There's been so many times where I've been put in a position to not maybe be as authentic, and I've still chosen to be true to my brand, like who I am. And I will continue to do that until the day I'm no longer on this planet, because every time I'm reminded somewhere along the way, somebody will pop up out of the blue and say, "I'm looking at you for advice on this. Want to jump on board to a crazy idea, maybe initially that we had, to turn into a full-fledged. This is something that we can hopefully lead to greater pastures in the end, and more." Like, people gravitate towards that because of the topic, like we were talking about earlier, was just, it's easy to get a bad boss, but to get a good one is extremely rare, and it's unfortunate because that should be the norm.
It should be.
And here is the norm. That is exactly what our norm is we're going to do that. We're also going to hold you accountable, though, if you say you're going to do something, or, I don't care if you screw up, because that's how you learn. Let's talk about how that happened, and figure out a way to, put something in place to overcome that and learn from it. But don't be non-authentic, right? I guess don't lie to me, don't whatever that is. And these individuals have already lived that through the three of us at other stops along the way, and future people that we don't know yet along the way. I hope that they gravitate towards that as well, because that's the goal at the end
Exactly.
of
And
the
I think
day.
you really hit on it there too. Being genuine is super important, and being fearless. It's okay to make mistakes. And that's one of the things I think so many people don't understand. They think, "Oh my God, I can't screw up. I've got to be perfect. I'm starting this new job. I've got to impress everybody, et cetera, et cetera." No, you don't. You learn from making mistakes. If you knew how to do everything, you'd be a multi-billionaire and running the world. Clearly, you don't know how to do everything, and that's okay. It's okay to make a mistake as long as you learn from it. You can make all the mistakes in the world, but learn from them. That's the super important part. What did you learn? That's what I've always told my guys. Like, hey, don't worry about the mistake that you just made. Mistakes happen. They're human. What did you learn? And I think as long as you learned something and took something away from that, then you grew and you became better. That's why I always encourage people, be fearless. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. It's how we learn.
Yeah, I mean, the moment you're not afraid to do anything is almost like that moment you hear people say all the time: when you become the smartest person in the room, you're no longer learning.
Right. We'll
So
find a
I
different
would,
room.
yeah, exactly. Or teach, or at least teach somebody in that room something, and then go find a different room. But yeah, 100%. You've got to be willing to rubber band yourself, keep stretching, and seeing how much that you can absorb or lead or do, or whatever that might be. But the moment you stop, I mean, I don't know how it is for you guys, but in my impression in IT, it's you just showing up then, I guess. But IT doesn't stop. I mean, AI is here, and it's growing, and it's expanding, and every day it's a new article about what it's being utilized or being targeted for, and it'll be something else along the way.
But you
I mean,
can't be
it's IT.
afraid of it. Look at it as an opportunity, because that's what it is, guys and girls. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for all of us. It's a new way of thinking. It's a new way of doing things. Absolutely. It can be big and scary, and a lot of people are scared of it, but that's the wrong way of looking at it. It's the wrong way of approaching it. Look at it for what it is. It's a tool. It's a very sophisticated tool, but a tool nonetheless. And it's an opportunity that has come along, and it's up to the smarter people out there to figure out how to make the best use of that tool and the best use of that opportunity and utilize that to go forward in whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I mean, Larry, at least from your perspective, all the tools that you can think of that we have in our suite right now, you didn't have experience with every single one of them initially, right? We had to do some research. We had to find all the opportunities, but not at any point you didn't sit down and go, oh man, too much. Don't know what I'm doing. Don't want to do that, etc. You sat down and just figure it out, especially on the training side. There's a couple tools that we're using that have some AI tie-ins that are going to be amazing for people to see. How has your team and yourself even looked at some of those tools, and like which ones have you really been surprised by or liked?
I personally have broken things. That's how I've gotten in and learned some things. I've had full videos that I've created in CC360 that I had no idea what I was doing, and I destroyed them because I didn't know what I was doing. So I think we're just learning with that new software, and it's like with anything else, you have to get in and get your hands dirty, and be willing to learn. It's like with anything else, actually. If you don't have, a subject matter expert in the room and you're trying to learn something, there's no other way, unless you want to watch 8 hours of YouTube videos to figure it out, to learn what you're doing than to play around, break things, and figure out what you're doing. I don't think that we have a single piece of software that I've had too many struggles with. I think I'm constantly surprised by AI and the things that it can do. Maybe I want to say more efficient, but it's probably made me lazier because I've relied on AI for things I didn't think I would rely on AI for. But that's kind of the brilliance behind it. It can make life easier and open up opportunities to do other things. So that's one of the tools that in multiple areas, we have multiple different variants of AI that make using those tools easier.
Whether it be ChatGTP, Gemini, Grok, the list goes on and on. I think the thing that I've been most surprised about AI is not only what it can do, but what it can't. It never ceases to disappoint me. We've been told it's this great panacea, this great, amazing thing.
It definitely can't do it all.
Exactly. Yeah. It cannot do it all. There's still so many things that require people. And I think that's where those opportunities that I was talking about earlier come in, is look at what its deficiencies are and think of ways that you can leverage those to your advantage. And that's some of the things that we can absolutely help people with and teach them how to do that. Because there's a plethora of opportunity in the AI space, not only to utilize its brilliance and its greatness, but also to take advantage of some of its shortfalls and its pitfalls. And
I think that brings up a common misconception that people think that AI is going to just replace every single job that they have, or my jobs, like my job may go away because of AI. Not necessarily. You just have to learn how to use AI and work alongside it. That's the best way to prepare yourself for AI. Otherwise, it may replace you, but not in the way that you think. You're just not going to be able to perform the way that you could before because you're not learning and you're not willing to put in the time to utilize AI. That's the way it's going to replace you. It's not.
And I'm
literally
constantly
going to replace
surprised
you.
too. I have a lot of people of my contacts that reach out to me all the time. They say, "Hey, I know my business needs to utilize this AI, but I don't have the first clue as to how to use it. I am freaking out right now. My company is looking to me to figure out this AI thing, and I don't know how to do that." That's another opportunity where we can come in and help organizations and businesses out to teach them how to utilize these tools and really how it's going to fit into their particular business and what it can and cannot do and how they can integrate it into their business and utilize it. So that's what I'm super excited about as well.
Yeah, and I think another interesting point is for people that have been in the game as long as we have, at least, everyone remembers Google. And when Google came around, and everybody knew that if you knew how to utilize Google to your advantage, those are the people that got ahead. And AI is a much more enhanced version of that, but it's right along the same lines of if you know how to utilize it, and also, Larry, good point, what it can't do or what it can do today, you're going to get a lot farther ahead with that. Of course, there is a lot of exposure and security and a lot of those things that come along with that. But if you come up with a good plan, you implement the actual plan itself, and then you start training individuals that don't know or do know some aspects of AI and start training them on how to maybe prompt it, how to actually do their job, more efficiently with it, etc. Yeah, you're going to see a lot of proficiency gains and results from that. And, it's going to take your business from a status and time of where you're at now to maybe a place that you hope to get to, but it's really just a plan away. So a really good point around the AI aspect. I just think that there's a lot of opportunity out there. Obviously, everything you look at in every poll, the number one answer is AI, and it's for a reason. And we've been using it for a long time. Every single thing that we've built so far here at Trisentra has a flavor of AI. And when I mean everything, I mean, future people, when they come and talk to us, we can show you literally our entire website stack, the website itself, photos, everything, to give you an example of what it can do. And I can also give you a war story behind what it took to get there and what we learned from that, and what you maybe won't have to spend hours on because we've already went down the horror of learning. So we can speed that up for you as well. In terms of, leadership, we've spoken about that quite a bit so far, but how do we look at, trying to be a bit more maybe vulnerable or accept feedback along the way from not only just like employees, like customers, right? We've all been in customer focused jobs. I mean, two of you are still sitting, in one today, dealing with clients. I just was in between a job of being right in front of the business and taking that and going back and translating it to IT. So how do you prepare yourselves to grow as a leader by being vulnerable and taking the feedback and autonomy and then applying it?
I think applying it to customers is super important. One of the things, as I mentioned earlier, is you have to learn to listen, because if you don't listen, you're not going to know a thing. You might think you do, but you don't. You have to listen to your partners. You have to listen to your employees. You have to listen to your customers more than anything. And really what you need to be is a partner to everybody that you're involved with, not necessarily their boss or their fearless leader or whatever term you want to utilize, but you have to be a partner from start to finish. And that's a partner with their employee life cycle. It's being a partner to your customers. And again, listening is the most important tool that you can have in your quiver, because once you do that, you'll learn what your customer or your employee or whoever it is that you're dealing with, what's important to them and what they're trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish. Then you're well equipped to be able to say, okay, now that I understand what your goal is, what your objective is, this is how we can work together from start to finish to get you there, and to get you there in the least amount of pain, the least amount of cost, and the least amount of time. Because time, as we all know, is the most precious environment. It's the most precious commodity we have. And so if we can successfully guide people based on listening, based on their feedback, we can get them there in a short amount of time.
So, Lawrence, how do we at Tricentra think on a topic of mentorship and growth? What do you envision when you hear those words, and how do you apply that to the individuals that you're leading or the people you come across that you're helping?
I've historically, all my meetings are super collaborative. There's a lot of group sharing and team conversation that has to take place. I don't let people get away with not sharing. There were a couple meetings that I evolved in my current job where historically it was just reading off of a list of bullets, and that's it. We just talked about points and there was no group discussion. That meeting has completely changed into a collaborative atmosphere where everyone is talking to each other and they're talking about their struggles and talking about their wins, and it's made everyone more successful. And I think applying that at a larger scale in anything as a leader is important. You can't just have a conversation and be the only person speaking and then call it a conversation, because it's not what you did. All you did was talk. That's not healthy. That doesn't help in any way. So I think our growth depends on that, on being collaborative and having healthy discussion. And it kind of circles back to how we handle disagreements. I think everybody that we've involved so far is really good at dealing with disagreements, and they don't really, they don't come up as disagreements. They just come up as slight differences, and it evolves into a healthy conversation. So I think just doing that at the
Your
higher scale is
conversation
great.
opportunities. That's what I prefer to call them rather than disagreements. They're
Yeah.
conversation opportunities.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, you can label it any, possible negative word you want to say. Disagreements, even arguments are fine as long as they result in positive outcomes. The topic at hand evolved and got better. Everyone walks out with respect for one another. On top of that, right? Like, you might have learned something by having that conversation about another individual as much as the topic. I'm going to sneak this in here because I'm surprised it's taken this long and I haven't said it yet. Any of the individuals I've led along the way would call it, I need to write a book eventually and call it Ryanisms, because I'll repeat the same phrases over and over and over again. But this one in particular, when we're talking about mentorship, I've constantly sat somebody down, asked them where they wanted to go. Maybe they knew, maybe they didn't. Whatever that topic landed on, help them eventually get to where they wanted to go. And if that was even my job, particularly, great. Take my job. I'm never an individual who needs to have a particular title or a particular position. If I'm worth my salt at any point, I will end up doing something else for that company, while that individual who has now been trained, they're ready to go, they're able to do it, has ascended. We're better for it as a company. We're better for it as individuals now because we got stronger and that person took the mantle, right? So cutting somebody off at the knees has never been something I've ever wanted to do, never have done. And again, we keep going back to the individuals we keep referencing. I think that's why people are here and they trust us. So I'm hopefully able to bring that over to our clients as well. And they can see they can also trust us. We're not successful unless they're successful. It's cliche, but it's actually true. If our reputation, gets hit with a negative and we do something wrong, we do something bad, we didn't actually partner with you like we're saying we're going to partner with you, well, then you don't got to worry about this podcast, or you got to worry about the name Trisentra in the future. But I'd like to think that we're going to be able to show you guys that we are indeed a partner to you. Think of us as another arm to your business, where we want to take your business to heights and places where you want to get to and maybe haven't even thought of being able to get to on your own, because maybe you just haven't found that right partner along the way, or had the ideas that we're going to be able to bring to the table here. I want to take it into a more of a fun direction now, though. Just get a little bit more about you guys' personality. Just who are we? Why are we going to answer these questions this way? Don't put too much thought into it. But what's your most favorite snack that you have during work? You're not thinking about it. You're working hard on Trisentra stuff. You're eating something. What are you doing? What are you grabbing, Larry?
Recently started getting into the Biscoff cookies that they hand out on airplanes.
Airplane cookies?
Yeah. My wife loves them too. That's a good one. It's filling. I don't snack a ton, but those help out if you're
How many
reaching
times have
for
you
something.
traveled to Texas in the last 3 months?
I know, and that's kind of why. That's where the Biscoffs came from. Every single time they hand those out, and they're pretty great. But to answer your question, 3 times in the past, 3 months. I think it's been 3 times.
So we like to use Delta if we can travel. So just going to sneak that Delta word in there again. Tim, what about you?
Of lately, and I blame Larry for this, just like him, I don't really snack that much, especially since I am on the other side of 40 or 50 or maybe 60. I'm trying to, watch the old figure. So one thing I also want to make sure is that I stay sharp mentally. And this almost sounds like I'm doing a commercial spot right now, but this stuff is really good. This energy and focus stuff. I'm popping those
Scripted,
things
folks.
probably more than it's not, probably more than I should. But it really is, it's pretty much what I go for. That, and I am guilty of drinking way too much Coke Zero. I will definitely plug Coke Zero. And yes, if I can't get a Coke Zero at a restaurant, I will just drink a regular Coke, not a Diet Coke. I can't stand Diet Coke, but I love Coke. Hey, there you go. Larry understands. It's just one of those things. So between the Neuro Gum and the Coke Zero, that's pretty much my go-to snack.
Good choices.
Yeah. Yeah, I am still hooked on energy drinks in the morning. Although I got a ton of sleep yesterday, so maybe it's just the lack of talking to Chat GPT at 2 a.m. But also Cheez-Its. I think I ate the other box, so I can't plug Cheez-Its other than saying it because I already ate all the boxes that were out here. Anyways, next topic. I think this is going to be a real easy one for us. Console gaming or PC? If we had time to game, so let's look back at the times when we were gaming. What were you choosing and why?
PC.
And then this is going to probably be a love-hate comment on my end, but I always was a console gamer. I think I was just lazy.
You're talking about
Honestly.
historically? Like historically, yeah. I mean, consoles, PC once I turned like 18.
When I was a kid, and I'm going to date myself again, I had an Atari Pong. That was the console. It was just Pong. That's all it did, was play Pong. And then I graduated to an Atari 2600. So again, a console. But then I think a Commodore 64 went on sale, and I was like, ooh, an actual computer. And being a nerdy, geeky kid who got to watch the original version of Star Trek when it was first broadcast, I was fascinated by computers. I wanted to be a Mr. Spock, and I wasn't going to become an alien, but I could be an alien where, there's another plug. And I learned what these computers were, and I learned how to code. And I'm like, ooh, this is even more fun. And then I got into the internet, and the rest is history. But to this day, I still really do enjoy the PC and the more sophisticated games that are around those. And I know consoles have come a long way, and you can do probably everything on a console now that you can do on a PC. But I don't know, maybe it's just because of the way I grew up. But it was more of a PC kind of guy than a console kind of guy.
I mean, I think it's very simplistic. You show the audience, the people that can see it can't see it. There's a Yoshi that's tattooed on me. I don't know that I remember a good Mario game that was on PC, maybe. So I think there was a couple weird ones that were on PC. But yeah, I mean, I just kind of similar idea. I grew up what most people would say in my age bracket, the Nintendo. I got an Atari. I got Pong in my collection, and I was like, what in the heck is this? Like smacking this square ball back and forth. So Mario was like life changing, and it's always stuck with me. But I think when I sit on the couch, I'm just lazy. I just want to pick the controller up and not have to worry about doing a bunch of things. So I know that you can set up your PC and do that. I built a gaming PC probably 2 generations ago now, and then played the game on it. It was the world's best browsing machines. That says a lot about me. Let's go into slides or whiteboards. If you guys have to do some sort of presentation, this will be fun based off your interaction conversation earlier, but I guess we'll start with you, Larry. What do you prefer? Do you prefer getting a slide deck, or do you prefer being interactive on the whiteboard?
Whiteboard. But again, that's more collaborative. You cannot be collaborative with slides unless everybody is actively editing the slides. I think slides are a terrible way to get a point across in a group setting as a meeting. Not a fan. For maybe something like training passively, sure, slides. But if you're in a group setting, you're trying to learn something as a team and I guess communicate, then it's a whiteboard. It has to be.
So it's a good thing that one of our first purchases was a whiteboard.
That's right. Where is it, Tim?
Over there.
No plugs there. Let's go into another topic real quick. Startup chaos or corporate stability. Let's throw this one over to Tim. Which one would you rather be in?
All day long. I would much prefer that. The corporate stability sounds boring to me. It sounds like something I don't want to be involved with any more than I possibly have to. But startups are fun. This will be my third one. Fourth one, I suppose. 3 successful, 1 not so successful. That's not a bad batting average. But yeah, this is definitely speaks to my soul. Startup chaos for sure.
I mean, it's a ton of work, right? But at the same time, you get to set all of those standards. You get to make the adjustments. And then sometimes you have to remind yourself that you are that person. You turn around, it's not the corporate culture. It's not somebody else that you have to go ask. Like, you are the ending point, right? So in some ways it's accountability for ourselves, but I would rather do this all day. I think I've told you guys countlessly, like, how long this task took or this took. And then while I was doing it, I didn't even notice that the time went by or anything like that. So it even feels totally different to be doing it in that regard versus doing what else is being asked of you. And, and that's no knock on anybody that works in that particular world, because this is a lot of hard work to get to this point. It takes a special kind of everything coming together for it to actually make, people, the right timing, uh, opportunity, all the stars have to align for that particular thing. So I'm 100% right there with you. Larry, I already know what you're going to say, but let's throw you the question. Would you rather get a Slack or Teams ping or an email?
Actually, that's situational, but if I had to pick one, it
Ooh.
would be Slack Teams. If it's something that's high detail that someone already has the information on, an email thread isn't bad. It's actually a little easier to consume than a Slack thread that can be chaotic. But for the most part, an active Slack communication is much better. I've only used Teams once. I'm just going to say I prefer Slack.
It's all good. I've been in corporate for a long time, and Teams is definitely in my arsenal. So Slack is indeed fun, a different endeavor for me altogether, which is very creative. A lot of automation you can do with that. I think some companies, especially when I'm looking at job postings, it's interesting seeing what their collaboration suite and their tooling that they do list that they've selected. And you can kind of see it, because in some regards, we've done some of that with our selections of our tool suite. And it's interesting in the mentalities of some of these, business decisions. And of course, some of it's pricing and the deals that you get along the way. But I think that Slack maybe doesn't get as much credit as some that have only been in a Teams environment might know of. So they all have their advantages. So whichever one that you use, we got experience. We can definitely help, but there are definitely pros and cons to all of them. Going forward, LinkedIn networking or real life meetups. Which one do you guys prefer when you're trying to introduce yourself to somebody? You're trying to have a conversation about a topic, or just simplicity, you just want to get somebody's take on something. What do you guys prefer?
Real life meetups, I much prefer those, maybe because I'm old school. They both have their places, though. I mean, sometimes you're trying to reach a really wide audience and you're trying to cast a net far and wide, in which case LinkedIn is better. But as far as getting to really know somebody, I think there's no substitution for looking somebody in the eye, seeing that body language, being able to get a feel for somebody. You can't beat in person meetups.
I'm going to agree with Tim and go with real life meetups. I kind of feel like maybe LinkedIn and any form of social media is really easy to manipulate and cater towards what you're going for. So yeah, it's easy to see through kind of the BS net and find out what you're actually getting into with somebody. Plus, it's just kind of nice meeting someone and getting a read on them in person.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're traveling, like that adds to an enhanced fun factor, right? Especially if you're going to a place that either you haven't been before. In my case, I traveled to England quite a bit, actually, for my last position. So different country and culture altogether. And along that way, also traveling to Utah at that point. I had never actually been inside of the state of Utah, and sitting there and meeting them and hearing about all the things around, and then just looking at the landscape while we're also sitting down and very much focused on particular problems that we're trying to solve while we're there, and going back to the hotel and grinding on game plans all night long, whatever it was, and coming back in the morning and doing that is just part of the war room that it feels like when you get to meet people in person. You get to fix their problems, see their issues in real time, and then see their facial expressions change, or maybe their stress even relieve when we get to a point where they can see a way out or they can see a solution. I've also had really great conversations on LinkedIn. I do think that you have to have two individuals at least that want to have a meaningful conversation that does matter. Otherwise, it can be very much what's in it for me, or I'm only here to sell you X, Y, and Z, or yeah, here's my spam. Even I mean, like you said, social media is this whole different ball game there. But you can absolutely have some great conversations, and we got some great guests coming up that I've met from LinkedIn that I've actually not met some of them in person yet. I have met them on many video calls, and man, they are lovely people. I would love to actually meet down the line in person, or if they land different job opportunities and they remember me and didn't think I was too crazy, to come on in and help fix some of their challenges along with you guys. So definitely enjoy both, but yeah, I would also go in person. And let's
Travel's good
go
for the
with
soul too. I
go
mean,
ahead.
so travel is good for the soul. I love traveling. I've been literally all over the world, and it speaks to the heart, man. It fires the soul and the imagination, getting to meet new people and new cultures, and just immerse yourself on that. It's amazing experience. So it's another reason why I would say absolutely meeting in person over other social media platforms.
Which is really great because, some of these clients are going to want us to be there to help work through their issues and their processes. The good news is we love it.
As far will travel.
Yeah, absolutely. There was something about gearing up to travel on a 14-hour, plane ride for me to get over to the UK and then have a totally different time change and swap, and then, get up and go to battle, whatever I was there for to actually to do, and have that mental gear up and that plan coming in. It's a different mentality. It's fun. And you're right. It does, like, going there and coming back to wherever you're going, it does change. It does give you some sense of relief, gives you some sense of accomplishment when you walk out of there, hopefully with a plan or a solution in place, to make that environment better. You
And we
got
do
me on the
have
travel.
plans too, by the way, to expand not just in the US, but as I had said earlier, globally. And we do know some folks, some collaborators in other parts of the world, including India and Europe, that we're looking forward to bringing in and working with in the not too distant future.
And I got a lot of friends in the UK and a lot of memories that maybe they'll get to come on the podcast and then talk about one day. I'll leave that story to them, maybe on some of my first adventures in the UK and the crazy American that showed up there. But yeah, absolutely. We definitely want to help everybody, not just in the US, but eventually, yes, get over into those parts where we can help you in whatever that might be: leadership, soft skills, cultural, how to handle even American businesses, even mergers and acquisitions. If you're a foreign entity trying to get a partner over here in America,
No,
that is
yep.
something that we absolutely have done at our stops along the way, and plan to do again, help in that kind of aspect. I mean, we're lifelong Americans from different parts of the country here. We definitely know what baby cultures in this state versus that state, would look like. So 100% here for that. So, gentlemen, last category before we officially wrap it up. What is one piece of advice that you would give your past self before starting to do maybe something like this, or starting to go down a venture that might sound maybe crazy at the time, or maybe seem like that is a far off goal that I need to help along the way, or I just need to start? What kind of advice would you give your past self?
Go with your instincts. You were right. Be a risk taker. Risk payoff. No risk, no reward.
Just keep stealing it. Keep every time. I was gonna say trust yourself. That was something that I struggled with. That actually Tim helped me out with, is being able to trust my own instincts and not assume that I'm wrong and that I have no idea what I'm talking about. When it turns out, yeah, I'm right a lot of the time.
More
I'm like,
often than not. Yeah, no, exactly.
yeah,
And we all know a lot more than what we think. Life experiences count, guys. It really does. And the things that you learn along the way, not just in the business environment or the working world, but in everything that you do every single day, you'll be surprised and shocked. Well, you guys, not so much because you already know this, but you'll be surprised just how much those experiences that you have in life come back and help you out during your career, in your job, and whatever it is that you're doing. Those experiences matter and they count. And you do know what you're talking about, and you can do it. And that's the important thing. If we accomplish nothing else, it's helping people understand that they can do this and that they are the right people in the right place at the right time. And they just have to have that confidence and belief in themselves. And that's what we're going to try to do.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that I would add to that is that sacrifice comes into that. You have to sacrifice, whether it's a little bit of time, a little bit of monetary, a little bit of whatever it might be along the way to actually get to a place. It might suck to get there, but you are going to pay that off in the long run if you commit to that and overcome that and put your best foot forward. And you have to be ready and be in a position to be able to do that. That's an important thing as well. But sacrifice goes a long way as well. You don't get as crazy credentials as I have without sacrificing something. So with that, I want to go ahead and, thank you guys for both taking the time to introduce Trisentra, yourselves. And I mean, I hear it every day, but it's great now that everybody else can at least hear it from you guys, hear it from us collectively on who we are, what we are about. And with that, that's going to take us to the end of our first episode. So where you can find us from here, all the links will be in the episodes themselves. Just scroll down, you'll click on them. We'll get you a link to Tim and Larry's LinkedIn so you can connect with them. Mine will be in there as well. You can also go ahead and go to trisentra.com. The site will be live as of this episode posting. You can see all of our services on there. You can read all this nice bios that we have up there, along with a brand new website we've been working on this entire time. In addition to this, the podcast, if you guys would like, share, subscribe, anybody that you think that we might be able to help along the way, we would appreciate that as much as if you want to come on later on, you got something to offer, you got something to talk about, we'd love to have a conversation because that's how we also grow and get better, as much as it would just be a fun conversation I think the industry needs right now with everything that's going on. So again, with that, thank you much. And Decline Invite is now out. Meeting over.
Yay. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks.
Thanks, Larry.